This is From Both Sides, a spontaneous, free-flowing conversation featuring a dynamic team of women, providing insights into both political and civic events affecting the lives of women throughout Pennsylvania. And now, here's your host.
Hello, and welcome to another edition of From Both Sides. I'm Michelle Saletto, your host, and today we'll share with you another show about the latest procedures available to both men and women to improve their appearance in innovative ways without surgery. In a recent show, we discussed and demonstrated on me cool sculpting with one of the leading plastic surgeons in Pennsylvania. Today we'll discuss an even newer procedure, SculpSure, a non-invasive smart lipo process which uses a laser to remove fat, and again, with no surgery. So it's my pleasure today to introduce our guest, welcoming him back to the show, Dr. Wendell Funk. Dr. Funk is a board-certified, fellowship-trained cosmetic plastic surgeon. He's had 25 years of excellent outcomes with his patients here in central Pennsylvania. He specializes in body surgery, breast surgery, facial surgery, injectables, and the latest non-invasive procedures. Welcome back to the show, Dr. Funk.
Good morning.
Good morning. Well, we've got a lot to talk about, and I wanted to start by talking about the fact that a few months ago on the show we discussed a process called cool sculpting, a non-invasive procedure, and we demonstrated on me the cool sculpting. I think I've had some pretty good results, and I think I had them notice them very quickly. So you and I had an appointment the other day to check my progress. What did you think of the process on me, and how well do you think it worked for me?
Well, you could definitely tell thinning already, but we discussed this from the onset. You were probably going to require a second treatment to further refine, get some further thinning depending upon your final goals and your objectives. Mm-hmm. And so we've discussed the next treatment, but certainly you've had a nice change that's visible. I think you mentioned your clothes fit looser, mm-hmm. but the next step will be more of a refinement process now.
Okay, sounds good. I'm really pleased with the results, and I want all the viewers to know I think it's a great process. So I'm interested to learn more about SculpSure, but before we do that, could you just give us a little bit of a background and just remind the viewers where your locations are and what your background is?
Okay, sure. I'm a native of central Pennsylvania, born and raised outside of Millersville in a little town called Washington Borough. Went to Penn Manor High School, Franklin Marshall College, Temple Medical School, and then finally to Pitt, and then I did my plastics residency at Ohio State, and I did my cosmetic fellowship at Manhattan Eye Hospital in New York City.
Okay, so you had a lot of training. And
Yes.
Your offices here in Lancaster as well as?
Lancaster, York, and Camp Hill are my three locations.
Okay, so convenient for anybody in central Pennsylvania, that's for sure.
Correct.
Okay, great. Well, Dr. Funk, if you could tell us a little bit about SculpSure and what that process is, how does that actually work and help reduce fat?
As compared to cool sculpting, which is a process which chills the fat to the point where it destroys the fat cell, this procedure heats the fat using a laser. It's a 1060 diode laser, and the heat process damages the fat to the point of causing cell death, and then the fat is eventually broken up and then is carried away, and then your liver detoxifies it. So it's just another way of damaging fat to the point where it's irreversible and you lose fat. But this time you're using a process called SculpSure by heat.
Okay, so the cool sculpting was cold against the body and it suctioned the fat, and the SculpSure is heat?
Heat, and instead of sucking up the fat and holding it there for an hour, although the new cool sculpting apparatus is going to allow that to be shortened, this actually has a very tight strap, and they're called packs, and you can do 1, 2, 3, or 4 packs at one time. Mm-hmm. And it holds it, and then the laser heads, which you will see downstairs when we do the actual procedure, snaps into these packs, and each treatment takes 25 minutes. So up until now, the treatments were an hour apiece. The advantage of SculpSure is the fact that it can treat non-pinchable fat, which is a huge plus, which is one of the reasons why I decided to incorporate this into my practice. And but in terms of discomfort, both of them cause minimal discomfort, but one does get very cold and one does get a little bit warm. You can definitely feel it, but it's a warming and cooling process the whole time, even during the SculpSure. When it gets to a certain temperature, it automatically backs off, but it's all computer driven.
So there are pads that are pressed against the body, and one would feel heat against their body.
It's very tight, and you almost see the fat puffing out or pin cushioning out over it. And you'll see that when Julie attaches that downstairs, and then the machine attaches it. It has to have a very tight contact.
Right. So we're going to demonstrate with a patient a little bit later in the show, and we'll actually see the process and see the equipment, and I think that's helpful to the viewers.
Correct.
I will say that on the cool sculpting, it was a little bit surprising to feel the cold and the sucking of this skin into the apparatus. But it really, I didn't have a lot of discomfort. I thought it was pretty, I really didn't have a lot of discomfort. It was a little surprising, the feeling, more so than anything. A little discomfort after it came off, but I think I did pretty well with it. So I think it's pretty easy to go through. So why did you decide to incorporate SculpSure in addition to cool sculpting?
Just because there was a certain subset of patients that didn't have pinchable fat. They may have had fat, but unless you can pinch it and draw it up into that apparatus that the cool sculpting uses, you couldn't treat it.
Okay.
But cool sculpting works by sucking it up, holding it there. You have to have a tight vacuum and no air leak. So if you had non-pinchable fat, there was no way to address it. Now we can use something which basically puts a very tight strap, and you can actually see the fat bulging out, and then we'll attach the various laser heads to this, and so we can now treat fat that's there, but that doesn't have to necessarily be pinched anymore.
Okay, so it just depends on the individual person which procedure is better for them, and you determine that after they come in for an examination.
And I may use both in the same patient.
Okay.
The same day even. So that's the advantage of having both these modalities. But each time it treats 20 to 25% of the fat, so you must realize that the fat's fairly thick. You may need 2 or 3 treatments to get the result that you're looking for.
Right. I've had 2 treatments, and I'm going to do another treatment. So.
Well, 2 treatments in one session, however. So we did that. In one day we did multiple areas. Now we're going to go back and refine the areas, and we're going to be using SculpSure. I think you said sometime in the fall, when your schedule permits.
Okay. So with SculpSure, what's the feedback that you're getting? Are people comfortable with it? Do they find the results good for them?
Well, certainly we have less time using it, because we've only been doing SculpSure now for 3 months. It was only released by the FDA in January of this year, even though it's been undergoing studies for quite a few years. So we are now just beginning to see the 3-month results that we're looking for, although you can retreat people at 6 weeks with SculpSure. So if someone has fairly thick fat, and in the consultation we determine that they want a fairly significant improvement, we'll retreat them at 6 weeks, and we won't even wait for the final 3-month result, just to make it go faster for them and get the results they want more rapidly. If they're not sure and they want to wait, then we will wait the entire 3 months. But so far we've been very pleased with it. But the studies ahead of this have proven this modality clearly works. We've been doing cool sculpting for 3 years, so it's been around a whole lot longer.
A lot of people asked me after the last show, they would call me up or email me a week or so later and say, "So did you lose your fat?" And I try to explain to them that it's a process over time. So could you talk a little bit about that for our viewers, that even this patient today, when she does the process, is not going to know tomorrow or next week the full result of the treatment?
No, you won't see anything for many weeks. Most people don't see anything for at least 4 weeks. Some people may take 6 to 8 weeks, but wherever you are at 3 months, that's where it's going to be. That's as much as you're going to get in a 3-month period. Stability of weight's critical. What you don't want to do is put on weight. If you can lose weight during the process, that's going to expedite the process. But if you're putting on weight, this is nowhere near as aggressive as the actual surgical procedure of liposuction. So weight stability becomes a very important feature with this. But the modality clearly works. I've had it done myself. It feels differently because it gets warm. Some patients find it easier than cool sculpting. Some people find cool sculpting easier. And part of it depends upon the anatomy. If you're trying to melt some fat over top of a bony prominence, it may be a little bit more uncomfortable because it is a laser. But I found it very tolerable.
Okay. Could you talk a little bit about the downtime or any restrictions after SculpSure?
There's very little downtime at all. I mean, you could be disconnected from the laser, get dressed and go right back to work. If you want to, we do want everybody to wear a compressive garment for at least 4 weeks, just like you would with liposuction. It helps keep the skin shrinking as uniformly as possible. However, neither of these procedures are to tighten skin. They're only to reduce fat. So if someone has loose skin, they have to realize that their fat's going to get thinner, but the skin will not get tighter.
Well, so what other aspects do you think that patients really need to know about this? There's really no preparation time, preparation in advance. There doesn't seem to really be any downtime. I think that you suggested for me that maybe I not work out for a day or two. But really, other than that, I went back and I had meetings and went to work, and I really didn't have any other restrictions. So anything else people need to keep in mind in preparation for SculpSure?
I think the biggest thing is realistic expectations, and that is the responsibility of me and my staff when we talk to the patient during the consultation process. With liposuction, I can tell you're going to see a dramatic change literally 3 days later, even though the healing is going to go on for months. This is going to take many weeks, and if patient just has to realize that it's going to be it may be multiple treatments, and then we have to discuss the cost, because sometimes these non-invasive modalities are cheaper than surgery, but in certain circumstances they can be way more expensive, but they just don't want surgery at any cost. And it's obviously going to be slower, but it clearly works. You can get back to work the next day. Obviously, the more treatments you have, the more discomfort you may have for the first day or two. If you're going to do 4 or 6 hours of cool sculpting in one day, you're going to be a little bit uncomfortable the next day. In the same way with SculpSure, we've done as many as 16 packs, I think, in one day. That's 25 minutes of treatment. 4 packs, 4 packs, 4 packs, and 4 packs. Obviously, that's not going to be done on a 120-pound woman because there's not that much fat there. But they may have a little bit more discomfort the next day, but they're certainly going to be able to go to work. I would encourage them to stay away from the gym for the first day or two. You could potentially have a little bit of bruising, but you can have that with cool sculpting too.
I think I had a little bit of bruising and a little bit of discomfort, but it was relatively minor. So I think that I certainly recommend the processes. I mean, it's a great way. And for me personally, I didn't want to have an invasive procedure. I didn't want to be cut open to deal with the stubborn areas that I had. So are these processes primarily for people who are really moderate weight, or can they be used for people who really are really heavy and obese?
Well, if they're really obese, it's going to take an awful lot of treatments. I just had a patient this week, and I said, you know what, we're going to spend so much money getting to your bottom line that surgery is going to be way more effective for the final result and financially. At that point, then they make the decision. And some people will simply say, I'm willing to pay twice as much because I have no downtime and I'm going to have much less discomfort. But I think we need to make sure everybody is aware that some people will have some discomfort with this. I've had patients who have had 4 what we call cool sculpting treatments, and they were pretty uncomfortable the next day. A 16-pack SculpSure may be a little bit uncomfortable the next day, but it's still nothing like surgery, not even comparison. Occasionally we'll have to use a pain medication such as a Vicodin, but usually it's controllable just with Tylenol or Advil.
Okay. So are people responding to your the beginnings of cool sculpting? Are you seeing a lot of people coming to you with an interest in cool or in SculpSure?
Well, people more for refining. They've already had cool sculpting done. The bigger thing is we were probably turning away half of our cool sculpting consults because the fat wasn't pinchable. So now all of a sudden we have something to offer to them. But a lot of this non-invasive fat modalities is an ongoing thing. Someone may come in and do a treatment now, and all of a sudden next year they come back and they say, you know what, I want to address this area now. So it depends upon time and budgets, but we have a lot of patients who have an ongoing relationship with us regarding both of these modalities now.
Well, I had an interesting comment from a friend who said, if they remove 25% of the fat and you treat the same area 4 times, will you remove all of the fat? And I didn't know what to say.
Nor would you want to.
Okay.
It's fat treatment, whether it's liposuction or cool sculpting or SculpSure, it's important not only what you remove, but how much you leave behind. fat is a padding, and you need to leave some padding, otherwise you're going to get some skin irregularities and some wrinkling and those kind of things. So, there's an art to this too. There's no question about that. And at some point you have to know when to stop. However, I have done some bodybuilders who have very little body fat, but they just can't get that one area away, removed with fat, and they'll treat that one specific area. Everything else is, the fat is, pinching that thin. So we treat people from being thin people to fairly heavy people, but it's not a treatment for extreme obesity. That's for sure.
Okay. So if someone is interested in learning more and seeing if they're a candidate for Cool SculpSure or SculpSure, what do you suggest they do?
We just always ask them to call the office. All the consultations are complimentary. And the reason for that is because, at least with Cool Sculpting, half the patients weren't candidates. At least that was my experience, because they didn't have pinchable fat. And I'm more interested in making sure that I'm going to be able to meet their goals. So and some will actually go on to surgery, and then it's simply saying, this is too slow. I want to get an immediate result. I want to look good for the summer. And if you want to look good for the summer, you would want to start on your Cool Sculpting or SculpSure 6-9 months ago. So it's a planning process, but it's still a modality that I'm very happy that we have. I know it works, but it's all a matter of discussing this with the patient and making sure you meet their expectations.
Okay, great. Well, I think we're going to take a break here from our sponsors, and then we'll go downstairs and we'll actually see a demonstration of SculpSure.
Terrific. Thank you.
Thank you.
From Both Sides is a production of the Susquehanna Valley Center for Public Policy and is made possible by the support of the Pennsylvania Center for Women and Politics at Chatham University, a nonpartisan center devoted to fostering women's public leadership through education, empowerment, and action. The first to focus on women's political involvement in Pennsylvania, the center integrates disciplinary knowledge, civic education, and capacity building, while examining the intersection of women and public policy. From Both Sides is also supported as a public service by Saul Ewing LLP, a law firm with a 100-year tradition of serving the needs of business, government, education, healthcare, technology, and manufacturing in our region. And by the University Center for International Studies, the engine for extending the global reach of the University of Pittsburgh and its students. From Both Sides is also sponsored by Dr. Wendell Funk, one of Central Pennsylvania's most experienced cosmetic plastic surgeons. Dr. Funk is a leader in new and innovative non-invasive procedures like Cool Sculpting. His long-term experience with all types of cosmetic surgery, as well as facial injectables, keeps new and repeat patients returning to his practice in Lancaster, York, and Camp Hill. From Both Sides is also sponsored by the Ed and Jeannie Arnold Foundation.
Hi, welcome back to From Both Sides. We're talking today about a new non-invasive procedure to remove fat called SculpSure. And we're here with Julie Couric on Dr. Funk's staff, and our patient Dawn, who has agreed to allow us to observe the procedure being demonstrated on her. So Julie, if you could just tell us a little bit about the equipment and about what you're going to do as you set Dawn up to have the procedure SculpSure being done today.
Okay. Dawn is going to treat her lower abdomen today, and SculpSure is a laser technique for melting fat, and it reduces the fat by 25%. It takes 6 weeks to see your results, and after the 6 weeks it continues to, the fat cells continue to exit the body. So at 3 months is your final result, very similar to our Cool Sculpting, but SculpSure is for areas that aren't real pinchable. So it takes 25 minutes to do the treatment. The first 4 minutes is a building segment of just heating the tissue. Once the 4 minutes of the build time is complete, then it starts to get a little bit warmer for the patient, which we can regulate how, as far as if the patient starts to feel discomfort as far as the heat is too much to tolerate. So one of the differences between Cool Sculpting and this procedure is heat versus cool.
Cold
versus
temperature.
Cool, yes. SculpSure is much faster. Again, you can treat one area. This entire area is going to be treated in 25 minutes. As far as both of them at 3 months is your final result, so that time is the same. SculpSure really is for areas that you can treat pinchable areas, but it is, we actually brought it into our practice because we had a lot of patients that we could not pinch the fat. So it's a mechanism that we can use for areas that aren't as pinchable.
Okay, and so Dawn, you've already had this done once, and this is going to be your second SculpSure.
Yes.
Okay, so how was it the first time?
Fine.
Okay, no, you didn't feel a lot of discomfort?
No, it just gets a little warm and then it cools off
Okay.
right away.
Well, I think you're lucky because I had pinchable fat, and you don't have pinchable fat, so I think you're better off than I am to start. So let's watch the procedure.
Okay, so first it attaches with a little belt, and these are called packs. So what I'm going to do is lay this right over the area. And I'm going to tighten each side because I need it to be tight so it draws the fat. You can see the fat coming up through, which look like little cubes, but we call these packs.
And I think Dr. Funk referred to that as like a pin cushion.
It
So you're
is.
looking to bring
Pull
that
this
area
up.
forward so that the heat can hit that particular area.
It is, and also the heat does radiate. So not only is the laser is going to be attached into each cube here, but the treatment does radiate out about this far around the treatment. So it does treat outside of the pack.
Okay.
So that's on nice and snug. And then what I'm going to do is I need to spray just a little bit of adhesive. This just helps each individual laser connect easier for me. Just around the edge. Okay. Do this one first. My hands are slippy. And these are going to snap right in. I need your 2 clicks.
Are you feeling any heat yet? No?
Nothing yet. We're just applying. Machine's not, the laser's not running yet, just attaching. Sometimes I might feel a little pinch in there, but good. You okay with that?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Nice and tight. All my lights are green. Okay, here we go. So the first 4 minutes, she's not going to feel a whole lot. She may feel a teeny bit of heat, but this is the segment where it's just building the temperature up.
So then what happens after the first 4 minutes?
So after the first 4 minutes is when the treatment actually, the treatment starts to affect the tissues, the fat cells, so she will start to actually feel the heat more. The first 4 minutes, patients don't feel a lot, but she will start to feel after the 4 minutes, she's definitely going to feel more heat. It gets warm, and it gets warm, and she's like, "Ooh, it's getting warm," and then as soon as you think it's almost going to be too warm, it cools off. So it's a heating and a cooling for the, the 21 minutes of the procedure. So
Okay,
at
so
this point, she's not feeling a whole lot. She's
So
probably just feeling more the tightness of the belt, squeezing a little bit.
So you could talk on your cell phone, you could watch television, you could take a nap while this is going on, and you did that. Was that comfortable for you last time? Okay, great. Well, we'll let you go through the procedure, and then we'll take a look and see where we are at the end.
Yep, sounds good.
Okay. So Dawn, the apparatus for SculpSure has been on you for close to 25 minutes, not quite, about 20-some minutes. Tell us how you feel.
I can't really feel anything. It just gets very warm, and then that quick it cools down.
So it's
And that's
warm, you feel warm on your stomach and then cool,
Yes.
and really no uncomfortable feeling?
It just feels like menstrual cramps.
It feels like you have cramps.
Yes.
Okay. Is it like an ongoing feeling?
No,
or?
it goes away that quick.
So you kind of get a flash and then it goes away. Okay. And it's your second treatment. Did you notice any results on the first treatment?
Yes, a
Because
little.
you haven't had much time between the
No,
treatments.
Just a little.
Uh-huh.
Just a little. I think he said 3 months.
3 months before we know fully where you're going to end up being. Okay, so would you recommend SculpSure to other
Yes.
people?
Yes, I would.
Okay, great.
Okay, the treatment is over, so I'm going to unhook each pack. I'm just going to let them hang here for right now. So at this point, she should feel no discomfort at all. The heat's done, and just a matter of taking these off.
Her skin is a little red, but hardly noticeable.
Teeny bit red, and mostly because of having the belt on. I need to keep it tight, I think, sometimes too, but just it's not even warm to the touch. I mean, it just feels like normal. So what the patients have to do, 5 to 10 minutes twice a day, I want them massaging the area, just kind of pushing and almost like kneading on the area. I don't need to do that now, but the patients will do that again twice a day, 5 to 10 minutes. Massage the area for 2 weeks. And then we also want patients, just like we do with cool sculpting, wearing a garment for 2 weeks, a Spanx or even a tight yoga pant. We want them to wear for the 2 weeks. Again, there's no downtime. She can hop out of this chair and go right back to go back to work or whatever she wants to do. So she can go to the gym if she wants. She shouldn't have any bloating, just a little bit of tenderness. If you were to push on there, you can feel like you've had a little something done, or like we've said, you're working out in the gym, or feel like you've done sit-ups, but no downtime, no discomfort. So she should start to see changes in 6 weeks, but at 3 months is her final result. So.
Okay, so it sounds like it's another great option if you're a candidate to have this non-invasive, no downtime procedure that takes really less than an hour, 25 minutes.
25 minutes. It is. I mean, there's a lot of people that don't want surgery, that don't want to have, go in the hospital, they don't want to be put to sleep, and that's what these machines are doing for patients that don't have time, that need to get right back to work. So,
well, thank you very much, Julie, and thank you, Dawn. Good luck with your procedure. We've been talking with Dr. Wendell Funk today about a new non-invasive procedure to remove fat called SculpSure, and we've seen a demonstration with a patient. So that's our show for today. I'd like to thank you for joining us, and I'd like to remind you that as women in Pennsylvania, there's much more that unites us than divides us. So I hope you'll join us again for our next show from both sides. Thank you.